Mike Diamond. I'm co-founder of Apex GMAT, and I currently serve as the head of curriculum development and instructor training. So I'm responsible for much of the curriculum development here, including our online platform and our other lessons and resources that we offer to our clients, as well as I oversee much of the content that we produce. Additionally, I'm responsible for training all of the instructors that work with us, and that involves a fairly intensive training process to take folks who already come to us with a 770 plus GMAT score or a 339 plus GRE score and take them from great performers and intuitive instructors to great performers, intuitive instructors that also become master of their craft when it comes to delivering customized instruction and coaching that really speaks to individual learners, which is really the heart of what we do here. The GMAT is a psychometric exam, which, just as it sounds like, is there to measure one's cognitive ability. At a deeper level, the GMAT's a test of decisions and operating efficiently under pressure, both the pressure of being in an exam and time pressure. So while ostensibly the subject matter is quantitative information and the ability to read and understand English, these are really baseline subjects that they expect everyone to have been exposed to in their secondary school and certainly undergraduate careers. So what the test actually is going after is your fluency and flexibility and your critical thinking skills and creative problem solving skills, which are necessary to perform well under that time constraint. The GRE is a psychometric exam. It consists of multiple quantitative and verbal sections, and it's designed to measure your ability to think well about quantitative and linguistic information. Many graduate schools use the GRE as their test of admissions. Recently, more business schools and related business programs have begun accepting the GRE in addition to the GMAT as an acceptable exam. The GRE consists of multiple question types and is scored each section from a 130 to a 170. And for consider a decent performance, roughly 70th percentile, you're looking for about a 155 plus in the verbal and a 160 plus in the quantitative. However, if you're looking for a really top performance, you really want to be in the upper 160s for quant and into the 160s for the verbal as well. Despite their similarities at looking at your thinking skills, the GRE has more shorter sections, whereas the GMAT are fewer longer sections, and different types of problems. So on the GRE, you've got multiple choice problem solving, fill in the blank problem solving, quantitative comparison. On the GMAT, it's multiple choice problem solving and data sufficiency. What's less recognized is that data sufficiency on the GMAT and quantitative comparison on the GRE really are the same type of problem. That is, the particular cognitive skills that these two rely upon are the same, even though they seem like totally disparate problem types. Most of the preparation we do here, frankly, can be applied to the GMAT or the GRE. And there are times when clients find one more inviting than the other. That's usually due to a number of reasons, and these also count as differences. The GRE is generally considered easier on the quant side. Apex doesn't agree with this. Because if you're preparing the right way, the materials are the same and the thought structures you need to excel are the same. but some people are simply more comfortable with the idea that it's easier. On the verbal side, the GRE has additionally vocabulary sections, which are vocabulary tied in with understanding the direction and flow of sentences. So they're fill in the blank type problems. And these problems tend to favor native English speakers or speakers of Indo-European, specifically Romance languages, where one's familiar with word roots and can puzzle out those Latin and Greek roots. So in that way, sometimes the GRE exposes a bias. Ultimately, when making a decision, one should focus on where you're the most comfortable and also which exam has the best chance of highlighting your strengths and skills. And to be sure, as the GRE has been introduced as an alternative to the GMAT, some people feel or actually are better with the GRE, but also while admissions committees do know how to compare the two, generally, they sometimes can be more flexible in their admissions decisions with one rather than the other, because they no longer have to think about being defensive with their test score averages and how that factors into things like program rankings. And so right now we're in a weird transitional place in test preparation where some people actively choose to use the GRE because the requirements on the admission side tend to be skewed. I expect that to change as things normalize over the next admission cycle or two into 2022, 2023. My number one is go with your comfort level, but that comfort level should be with the actual exam, not with what you've heard. Because the GRE is a lesser known commodity in the admissions process, where the GMAT has been the gold standard for 50 odd years, and before that it just had a different name, but it really hasn't changed a lot. The GMAT is the one that is recognized, and especially if you can perform above the average score of the programs you're applying to, I'd strongly recommend the GMAT. Whereas if you're not up to par in that respect, the GRE can sometimes be an alternative. The difficulty here in making this decision is that most people, when they try and make this decision, haven't prepared effectively yet. And so you really can't anticipate which exam is the better fit. So when we assess incoming clients, sometimes they don't know which exam they want, and we assess them and try and help them figure that out. And that means, so if you're preparing poorly, that is in an inefficient subject matter related way for one of these exams, that can be hard to transition to a new problem type. If you're preparing the correct way, and by that I mean with deeper understanding of what psychometric tests test and how to approach them, then switching from one to the other can be very smooth, in the same way that someone who's an athlete and has been playing a bunch of sports throughout their life might be able to switch sports much more easily, because while swinging say a bat, baseball or cricket versus a golf club might be different muscle movements, there are underlying principles that are the same. The brief answer is no. Once one has achieved general fluency in English, you should be absolutely fine. So I don't think there's like a real mother tongue bias, except as I mentioned with that GRE vocab can be a little bit based upon experience and having been reading in the same language since you're 5. But the verbal sections otherwise on the passages and logical arguments on both exams tests one's logical reasoning and ability to process language. So if you're an Arabic speaker or a Spanish speaker or a Russian speaker, if you were given a passage in that language, it would still be the same skills. What is the premise? What is the conclusion? What is the inference? And so the particular language it's delivered in, as long as you understand the vocabulary, understand the subtleties of, grammar and, how certain, say, prepositions are used, which isn't really technical, comes with fluency, then you really shouldn't have any difficulty. Or to put it another way, you're going to have just as much difficulty in your native language as you will in a secondary language.